All right, it's mid-November, but we're already excited. You know, for what, Robert?
Well, we're looking ahead into the beautiful winter snowscapes.
An early December, and on this episode of Real Estate Chat with
John Perez.
and Robert Eid, we're going to look into our crystal ball and give you the projections, Robert's projections of how November is going to look at. Any guesses? Type your guesses into the comments. Make sure you click like. Make sure you click subscribe to follow along with us. But let's get started
Yeah,
here,
write
Robert.
them down before you look at this. Write them
Oh,
down.
there you go. Too late. Too late. It's up.
Mm.
Pause and then write it down. But anyway, Robert, take it away.
Well, I have this 1, 2, 3 chart that we work on every month, and I don't know whether you can make it any bigger, but at the top is the model that we're using to say, okay, if we start with the inventory from the previous month end and add to that the new listings that are presented that month, we subtract what we know to be the relist duplicates, and we subtract the sales, and we subtract the terminates that do not relist, we should come up with what the just finished month's inventory is, because those all things take away and add to the previous total. So what I'm trying to do without knowing all the parts, I started doing this when I didn't know how to use how to calculate relists, because I was doing it as a percentage or something else, and then they gave us that number or a number that is supposed to be that. And there's no official number on terminates. So I just have to do it as a running average of the weekly tallies that I do on terminates. So we have October in the middle, which is absolutely what happened on the market watch, save and except for the terminates, which there is no number for that. So I put in my 7,200 and I put it yellow because it's a guess. So we go to the bottom and we see what's the projections for November. Now, November, normally I wait till the halfway point of the month. The halfway point of the month is going to be the 16th. This is the 14th. So we're really being out there. We're getting out over our skis, as they say in the real estate business. But I've noticed as I'm doing my daily listings that there's fewer new coming through. So instead of last month's, whatever it was, 14 and a half, I say we're going to have 13.666, and you'll see why I did that particular number. And I think that the relistings, the terminate. Number one, there's a lot of terminates. People just saying, poo on this. If my house didn't sell in August, September, October, and half of November, poo on that. I don't want any more showings. I'm sick of it. So there's just plain old terminated early. But there's terminate and relist. This is standard procedure for, I tried it one way and it didn't work out, and so I'm going to get rid of the history and start again fresh. And so it's perfectly valid listing strategy, except it's no good from a statistics standpoint, because our dear Toronto Real Estate Board counts every time a listing comes through as a new listing, and then it tries to get a reading on the market by announcing what the new listings are. Oh, new listings are up, and the ratio of new listings to sales and all this stuff. So it's got to be an accurate number, and right now it's not. And so finally, the sales. Sales are going to be a little bit disappointing. They're going to be, again, 23rd of a 28 at around 4,400. And the terminate's going to be a little bit around the same as they were last month, 7,200, minus the 5,000 that were relisted, so 2,200. And that means that at the end of the month, we're going to have somewhere around 19,1 as active inventory. Now, active inventory, here we go, normally goes down for November, goes down for December. And last month it was like 15,000 as the 10-year average. Now it's 13,000. So we went from 19.4 to 19.1. So, we're down. So again, the ratio, that's the important thing, is how many months of inventory do we have? If we take that as the estimate of inventory, let's still stay back there, and divide it by the projected 14.7 sales for the month, we've got 4.34 months. So it's still up over 4, which has never been a favorable sign. If it's going up, it's never a favorable sign for for the amount of inventory. Sales are flagging, listings are up, and so the number of months of inventory go up. So if we move to the next one, we look just plain old sales estimate. And again, we see it's the 23rd best November, using this 44.14 on The 5th now, actually, it's the 10th of the 22 days. We're 38% below the 5-year average, 38 and a bit below the 10-year average, 51% below the maximum November, and 2 and change below last year, and about 50% off a hot market, which was in 2019, and 39% off the 5-year average. So like we've been for the whole rest of the year, we're 40% off normal. And so we're staying the course. The number of sales is down and the listings is going up. But as we've said, the unadjusted listings are going up. The adjusted listings, which we'll get to soon, don't give it away the punchline, are not as bad. So let's keep going. Okay, so here's the 2 lines, blue and red. And blue is the announced number, and the 2 lines going across are the averages. So if Treb announces 11,666, the blue line will be where the blue line is, just slightly above the 10,000. So according to the conventional wisdom, that's 14% more than the 10-year average for November, which is, I guess everybody knew that the inventory was going up, and so 14% is not the end of the world. It's the same as last month, sort of a thing. However, when we subtract the duplicates with the same broker, the same owner, the same property, redone, shoved through the system again during the currency of the original listing period, that's a do-over. If we estimate them as 5,000, which is only 400 more than they were actually announced by the Toronto Real Estate Board, determined by their algorithm, we only have 666. Oh, plus 6,000. Net new listings, which varies from the 10-year by 34%. Instead of being over by 14, we're under by 35. So it's a 50% variation. Now, something is wrong. Now, maybe I've guessed it, the number's wrong. Maybe there's something out of whack with the way the whole way of calculating new listings is wrong, or maybe the sales is wrong, but I don't think so. This has become apparent when the board puts out the numbers in the first week of December, and we all get to see exactly what the sales to listing ratio is. And then how does that feel to the buyer? If the buyer says there's nothing for sale, how can it be that we're in buyer's market territory? That's the next slide. Is how can it be in buyer's market territory where only 37, 38% of the listings are selling, when whenever I go and see something, it's good. They want to hold offers for 5 days, and in 5 days, they got 10 offers on it, which is much more like a seller's market. And so the whole difference is if we subtract out the do-overs, and this one, there's 2 lines across, they're black and red. 5,000 terminate relists are 75% of the net new listings, 75%. So there's nothing for sale. That's what you got, nothing for sale in a should-be buyer's market with interest rates that nobody wants to pay. So what are we going to do about it? Well, we're going to do what we always do. We get creative, and we show a seller how to sell his property in a time of high interest. Like the buzzword affordability we've talked about in terms of government policy, but for practicality of a seller, if the market is saying to you that your house is not affordable, either we drop the price, raise the buyer's income, or play around with the rate of interest that's charged. And if everybody is pretty darn sure that within the next 2 years, interest rates will come down to reasonable, now they're not going to be 2%, they're going to be 4%. But that's certainly a lot better than 6% and 6 and change that you have to qualify for if you're coming in with 20% or less than 20% down, and then the stress dust on top of it. So the owner is going to be asked to cover the next 2 years. You're going to vendor take back, seller take back a second mortgage to at mortgage average. The buyer gets the first mortgage, you take back the second, it averages out. Or if we get real inventive, we have enough time, we'll talk about a 0% mortgage, wrap around 0% mortgage that you can do if you don't need all the money right now. If you're a last time seller, which has got nothing to buy, and you're going to invest that money anywhere, you can gain more on the tax-free sale price of your principal residence, sell it quicker because you've got something that's unique. You've got a financing package that nobody has. So good news for people that have a brain and a calculator.
Question, Robert. So
Ah,
some of our hallmarkers, some of the real estate agents out there, they're
yeah.
basically saying how great some of these deals are. And you'd expect that from real estate salespeople, real estate brokers, real estate professionals. Of course, when you're selling real estate, everything seems like a good deal, but the good deals out there, are they relative to the previous peak high prices? And they've been discounted since then. But when you look at the monthly payments you still have to make on them, are they still a good deal?
Okay, let's take one component at a time. Price. But let's say you had 100% cash money, you just won the lottery, or your dad just gave you the whole amount, or mom just gave you the whole amount. And so all you're looking for is the value. What type of property, based on my criteria, what I want, in the type of neighborhood that I want, in the condition that I want, and in the budget, in the price range and geographic location that I'm considering. Am I getting the very best location on the street? If I want a ravine lot, do I want that? Do I want to be far away from the Ontario housing buildings that are plaguing the transportation corridor, even though you want to be close to the transportation so you can walk to the bus if you're going downtown? So the deals that are around there, they're finding people who are absolutely serious about selling. And so as relators, as they mispronounce it in the United States, they are able to take an offer from a buyer that is not 100% of the asking price, is maybe 85% of the asking price, and go back and forth over a few days or over a few hours and come up with a deal at 90%, 92, 94% of the asking price. And the seller's happy and the buyer's happy because they came to an agreement on price on the very best property the purchaser has seen in a week or a month or however long it's looking. So that's why it's a good deal. If the buyer is delighted, it's a good deal. If the seller is also delighted, it's a great real estate transaction, because making the two opponents both happy at the same time, you got it made, man. You know what you're doing.
Well, now let's look at the price. So, I mean, good point with the price. But now let's look at the price calculation to how much you're paying on the actual mortgage.
Okay, so that's the next thing, the interest rate. Now, if these people are having to go to ABC institution and get a conventional mortgage, unless not high ratio, we're not worried about that right now, at the current rate is going to be somewhere between 5.5 and 6.5. Let's say, nobody likes that. And everybody is expecting now that we're at the top of the rates, that rates are going to come down. So everybody's being smart. Oh, I don't want to pay the extra premium, 7.5, to get a variable rate, but I know that in 6 months it's going to come down. The unfortunate thing that maybe we'll deal with in another episode is when rates come down, they are not going to come down the 2% that you're hoping to make your payments magic. They're going to come down a quarter. And a quarter is not going to make a heck of a lot of difference. It comes down twice. Now we got to September. It's come down half. Now that's way better. But the qualifying is still just as difficult because of the plus 2% stress test, which must be addressed by the this B20 qualifying from the Office of Financial
Offseat.
Institution. Offseat, that's right. And so this guy's been so preoccupied with getting things reorganized, sending out notices starting in like January. He sits around the office, does nothing. And then there's a problem. So he's got to do something. So he did something trying to protect the integrity of the lender. He spent 6 months canvassing the opinions of everybody. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? And he comes up with a half-baked, didn't really do anything, changes to report because the worst is over. And so he doesn't really have to. But he's got to deal with this B20 2%. If the 2% was to soften the blow and prepare people for interest rates going up because of a historic all-time low of 0.75%, well, we know the opposite of that now. So why do we need the 2% now to save us from rising interest rates? We don't need it. It's killing the qualifiers. It's making people stay with the existing lender that they are because they can't switch because they have to use the stress test. And either they have, they just got a new car finally, or they just changed jobs or whatever. So they can't qualify because of the stress test.
So you then basically the gist of it is for real estate chat viewers, make sure you're calculating your figures and budgets, because what may look like a deal today based on previous peaks may be a deal when you look at the price, but you've got to look at how much is actually going to cost you on a monthly basis, because everything's going to be relative, right? Prices have gone steady, rates have gone up, but the prices that have gone down on certain properties because of motivated sellers, you still got to figure out if it's going to cash flow you, if that's even possible in Toronto these days, or you'll be able to afford it. Thanks for watching this episode. Make sure you leave your questions and comments into the chat. And of course, stay tuned in December first week when the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board releases their actual results, and we'll see how close Robert's projections were. Thank you so much for watching this episode. Take care and bye for now.
No.